Well, good afternoon, Aristo.
Good morning, Ron. It is 2:47 here in Ioannina, Greece, and I'm happy to be here with you. We can start our topic, as we said last week, or half a week ago, that because of technical difficulties, we were going to repeat several things. Of course, you cannot cross the same river twice, so it's not going to be exactly the same thing. However, this topic is very important in my honest opinion, and probably several videos should be dedicated to it. It seems that some viewers also found it important. So here we go. Let's call this one the Law of Attraction Revisited. So many people in the alternative spirituality community have been exposed to this thing called the Law of Attraction, which really is a misnomer in my honest opinion, because it's neither a law and it doesn't really involve attraction per se. It is a natural phenomenon of manifestation, and any being that is conscious and energy-based as well as physical in manifestation represents a kind of confluence or intersection of qualities. Consciousness, energy, matter. When you have these things intersect, then that being is able to affect the way energies and particles and events come together. Because everything in manifestation, everything in creation is an event. Physicists will tell you this. There's really the idea that something is an object is an illusion. It's a misrepresentation. It's a convenience. It's not an illusion per se because it's there, but it's a convenience. In reality, everything in manifestation is an event. We said this before when we were talking that everything is really a verb and not a noun. So we have this natural phenomenon of the convergence of our being coming into resonance with the convergence patterns of manifestation. You do not create reality in terms of something out of nothing. You do not make things appear. You do not quantum theory will tell you that the observer affects the outcome. This is what this proverbial law of attraction represents. It represents resonating a pattern from your being, vibrating a pattern from your being, and that pattern coming into resonance with the goings-on in reality, and these goings-on then conform to the pattern. It's like if you have a plate and you put sand on it, you have the sand and you have the plate. If you vibrate the plate to a certain frequency, it creates a standing wave, and the sand will show the pattern that's on the plate. So the plate is us, and the sand is reality. So we're simply vibrating ourselves, and reality matches the pattern. It's as simple as that. It's a natural phenomenon. It is not some kind of high and mighty, otherworldly, miraculous thing. And it is not a law either, any more than the sun is a law, and the earth is a law, and love is a law. Laws are made by people. They are made to ensure the functioning of society via a certain level of control. This is not how the universe works. The body does not have laws attached to it because there are no criminals. There are no real criminality is a human construct. It's an aberration of unhealthiness. So there is such a thing as unhealthiness, but you cannot use law to establish healthiness. You use harmony. You use vibration, you use feedback, you use honesty, you use love, you use openness, you use nourishment. All of these things establish an energy flow, and energy continuity is the foundation of health. Any homeopath knows this, any healer knows this. Even doctors, if they change the words a little bit, know this. When you have blockages in your arteries, you can die, but if you let the blood flow, then you live. If you have blockages in your electrical conductivity in your brain, et cetera, et cetera. So I wanted to just put this introduction here to state that we need to not take anything for granted, because we have been so conditioned that the very foundation of our assumptions may easily be compromised. I won't say that it's false or wrong, but a half-truth is far more insidious than a full-blown lie. So we are inundated and corrupted by half-truths, misunderstandings, and perverted knowledge, you might say. Our problem isn't so much ignorance, it's the fact that we are constantly twisting. Because look at this, you have a natural desire. And this goes back to the, I'll say law of attraction because people understand it. But the ability to manifest, okay? The ability to manifest events. Manifestability, let's call it this. So manifestability is a function of one's heart's desire. The desire of the heart of the brain, the desire of the heart of the chest, the desire of the heart of the abdomen, and the heart of the genitals. The genitals are important because they connect to neck-side nerve convergences, to chakras, to areas basically that root us into the earth, and establish a kind of sensual pleasure principle without which life would be meaningless. There's also the area where our DNA is constantly cooked up into infinite varieties over time, into a large scale of varieties, a large spectrum, in order to generate offspring. So it is a center of creativity, just like the mind is a center of creativity. The heart is a center of emotional creativity, etc., etc. So what I want to focus on now is why this proverbial manifestability or law of attraction that some people say does not usually work and hasn't worked until now. I mentioned in the last video that actually you cannot manifest things in isolation. And I'm noticing this stupid, feedback noise again. But
yes, I noticed it too.
Maybe if I just don't move at all. But anyways, I think it's less than it was before. What was I saying? Okay. Essentially, the reasons we mentioned that the law of attraction hasn't worked until now, and somebody made a comment. He says, "You're a snake oil salesman," he tells me on YouTube. You're just arbitrarily saying that because of some obscure mechanism, the law of attraction didn't work, and now it's supposed to work, so we're supposed to listen to you. And it's like, look, observe it. Because there are many reasons the law of attraction didn't work in the past. First of all, we're all connected, right? So if we're all connected, my desires, your desires, everybody's desires are also connected. So I cannot manifest in a vacuum. There's no way I can just say, okay, usually our manifestations work and seem to work locally because they don't bother anybody else. I want my house, my whatever. If you're living in let's say, an affluent country where everybody's okay, wanting a better life and a good relationship is not going to step on anybody's toes. If you're living in a poor country with tyrants, wanting freedom is going to rock the boat. You're going to have to deal with everybody's fear of being punished. If they want freedom, you're going to have to deal with the tyrants themselves because they're manifesting. Psychopaths, just because they're psychopaths, doesn't mean they don't push to manifest. In fact, they're relentless because they don't have emotional inhibitions like other people do. At the same time, the law of attraction is not linear. Manifestability is not linear, which means that you don't have to, two people manifesting are not double the manifesting power as one person. Three people are not triple. You don't need to have everybody manifesting the same thing for it to come to pass. Very often you have the paradox that the more miserable, because everybody's doubts become amplified. All these people that say, let's all get together on Sunday and meditate on the same thing and manifest. Well, you got to know that just as you're meditating on this thing, all the stuff that you're denying is going to resonate with all the stuff that everybody else is denying next to you. So you're going to have, you may have, like, let's say 5 times, 10 times the manifesting power, but you're going to have 20 and 50 times the doubting power because our subconscious doubts have much more in common than our conscious desires because we all have a vested interest in the whatever we're trying to manifest, and that puts a spin on the desire. World peace for most people is too freaking impersonal. It's not something we should avoid trying to manifest, but we need to contact our own desire power first. You need to start from your personal life. That's why I had said, look, for most people, a very good arena of training, which isn't even an arena of training, it's an arena of happiness. Learning is intimate relationships. You get to learn a lot of stuff in intimate relationships that you could not otherwise usually learn. The same thing with big groups. You join a big group, you can learn a lot of stuff. There are many disappointments. It's on a different level. The same thing with working on your own. But intimate relationships tend to reach really, really deep. And it helps to have experience with yourself and know yourself and others and whatever I had said in that previous video. However, most people who promoted the law of attraction are like in two directions. One of them is the, let's say, white magic direction, white spirituality. Always forget the ego, don't look at your personal desires, and try to manifest something ideal that serves everybody else, but where you actually get dividends on the side, so to speak, where it's not your personal intimate desire per se. It's not egoic. And then the other side, which you even see in the movie The Secret, is, well, you can manifest a car, you can manifest a girlfriend, a boyfriend, you can manifest a house, you can manifest a job, but it's restricted in Western style materialism, superficial stuff. So you have these two extremes, when in reality, most people's heart's desire has nothing to do with cars and even sex or houses or property or even money, because money, if you really want to manifest money, you have to translate it into an emotional engine. Your understanding of money has to translate into what is money to you emotionally. A sense of security, a sense of freedom, a sense of creativity. This is what having finances means, because what finances are the current system's interpretation of all these things. So you may be limiting yourself, because when you use the word money, your subconscious goes into dollar bills or euros or anything banks, basically. You're giving energy to the banks when you're manifesting money, unless you really take the symbol into your heart and really ground it into your own emotional interpretation. Most people don't do that. In fact, what most people do is look for the most convenient way. Oh, the secret. All you have to do is just say affirmations. Blah, 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 blah. Basically, you brainwash yourself. So your subconscious manifests something. But, any hypnotist knows that you cannot just tell somebody. A hypnotic suggestion actually comes through because a person is relaxed. And when a person is relaxed, they're emotionally responsive. That's why relaxation is important in hypnosis. That's why alpha waves are important, beta waves, and what they call gamma waves that Tibetan monks exhibit when they meditate. Because it creates an energetic relaxation that allows your deep desires to actually vibrate. So, and they say that you can never hypnotize someone against their deepest desires. However, if you're very, very clever, like the psychopaths, you can convince somebody that doing something actually corresponds to their deepest desires. So you fool them into hurting themselves when they think they're actually doing something that they actually want. So we're messed up in that way. We're constantly manifesting things we really don't want. It's like buying products because we see it on TV, and it's marketing. That's what marketing is, convincing you to buy something you don't want, you don't need, tricking your desire, not giving you a false desire, but tricking it. There's no such thing as a false desire. There is a full desire. There's a desire because the thoughts and the reasoning and everything are pathways that the desire needs to structure itself into an energetic flow that will resonate into manifesting something, be that through a confluence of coincidences called synchronicities, which is how the law of attraction really works, or through your own personal action. The key to remember here, pragmatically, is motive, means, and opportunity. Motive plus, shall we say, motive plus initiative. No, initiative is motive, but motive plus intention. Okay, equals means and opportunity. The law of attraction or manifestability will give you the means and the opportunity to manifest something. Sometimes the means and the opportunity bring you the finished product. You end up driving somewhere and meeting someone, and that meeting leads you to what you want, or that someone gives you an opportunity to attain what you want. These things are not miracles, and we wonder, why don't they work so far? Well, because, first of all, everybody is brainwashed into a false sense of interpretation. Everybody's brainwashed into thinking they want something when they really want something else, and they don't really look at their desire. Second, everybody has traumas because the social conditioning encourages traumatization at various levels, from extreme to subtle. And often the subtle traumas really short-circuit us because we don't realize they're there, and they keep nudging us in directions that conditioning tells us to go. And everybody is afraid of facing those traumas. So when people talk about affirmations, they do mention, out of, let's say, an hour thing, oh, and don't forget, you need to put feeling into it. I've seen that time and time again. Oh, don't forget, but very briefly. It's like, look, man, if you want to get this across to somebody who is traumatized, maybe, or conditioned, or doesn't want to deal with their feelings, I mean, you should be spending 50 minutes on the fucking feeling issue and 10 minutes on the affirmation issue. You know, instead it's the other way around. Not even 1 minute is addressed the feeling issue. Because if you tell me, oh yeah, we emphasize feelings, we say it a lot. Look, man, you're not really convincing that. Because people go around repeating the same crap over and over again, and they don't end up with what they want, and then they just trash the whole thing and say it doesn't work. But at the same time, they're doing it, and I was manifesting as well, moving into applying and learning about manifestability. As I was doing this, I confronted, you know, after years of yoga, you get sensitive to these things. I confronted the collective resistance. People with their two-car garages in a certain environment. You got people who are suffering so much that any change is bad. Even if, you know, you're under a tyranny, most people will think a revolution is bad. It's going to get them killed. They need to be really, really driven into a corner to actually opt for that. Or we're in the situation we are now. How many people are actually going to stand up? It's too much of a risk. Now consider when people are actually thinking they're affluent, like in the USA in the 90s or in the 80s. Anybody trying to manifest common law or peace or whatever is running into a bunch of very determined, because people go to work and their very determination to conform and keep their jobs in the name of realism sends out an energy, attention. The competition with other people sends out attention. They don't want anything to disrupt their mindset, their drive, because if anything disrupts it, they're vulnerable. But if nothing disrupts it, nothing's going to change. So you're sitting there confronting the whole world. These psychopaths have conditioned an army of psyches that have tensed up into shields preventing any kind. And that happens in every period, every age. Every 2,000-year period, you have a certain collective pattern that ends up being instilled, and by the time it's instilled, the collective is rock hard. You look at the Middle Ages, there were several peasant uprisings in the Middle Ages, but as soon as one priest would come out to the field and say, you're all going to submit and be executed, or else I'm going to excommunicate you, and you're all going to go to hell. Do you prefer hell, an eternity of hell, or to have your heads chopped off, and your family's heads chopped off? And everybody chose to have their heads chopped off. Or they would run away screaming, because a priest threatening excommunication was the worst thing possible. Now today, the priest can come up and say, I'm going to excommunicate you. You know, everybody will just say, you know, who cares? You know, they'll beat him to a pulp if he's lucky. So the thing is that this age, however, has not established its rigid constructs. And the establishment is having a lot of trouble dissolving the old patterns before it instills the new ones. So, for example, we're talking about religion, but really think about it. You know, right now it's the conservatives that are holding the fort in a lot of ways, because they're tensing against psychopathic change more than anybody. In the United States, it's all the right-wingers with their guns and their Bibles and all of that are actually resisting the tyranny, you know, as far as the United States is concerned, more than anybody. Because they're the ones that have been so brainwashed and are so rigid in their opinions that it's very hard to undo. You know, if you're brainwashing somebody, it's very difficult to unbrainwash them and then reprogram them. You know, that's why they like doing it. Yeah, I mean, they do it to children. They say, okay, there's a fresh mind, let's brainwash this kid, and then they have a slave. But if they want to unbrainwash the kid and do it again, it's virtually impossible. So they're in a bind with that. They messed up. They went like kids in a candy store in the last century when they figured all this stuff out scientifically through psychology, to go and brainwash everybody according to the needs of the time. And then on top of the religious brainwashing and all of that, I mean, they promoted right-wing ideology during the Cold War in the United States. They could have promoted something more flexible, but it was impossible because they had communism on them. Now they're having a real bitch of a time trying to undo right-wing ideology through liberal ideology, which doesn't mean that being liberal is necessarily, you know, messed up. However, it can be corrupted. Easily, and has been. And plus, one thing they do is this. They will send somebody in, and that somebody will send a message, and that message will make them trusted, and then they will have the person slowly alter the message over time, so you're actually listening to the person and not the message, you know. And this may be done purposely, or it may be done subtly, or, you know, you don't know what's going on behind the scenes, but it seems to be a pattern. For example, somebody might be very honest, and they'll suddenly promote pedophilia. in such a way that people are just sitting around discussing it. You're discussing somebody who's actually advocating that it's okay to rape little kids. This is unheard of, and yet it's happening. Does it mean the person is doing it purposely or not? I don't know, but the pattern is there. See, instead of looking for blame, what we can do is look for patterns. And that's important where manifestability is concerned, because you're looking to change the pattern. When you feel a resistance, you look at what's the pattern, and then you look in yourself, where am I afraid? Where am I resisting? What do I take for granted? Nobody in the spiritual community, as far as I know, and anybody that I learn, maybe they do, but I haven't really encountered people with that level of thoroughness in addressing the proverbial law of attraction. It was always somewhat simplistic and somewhat superficial. But here you have these ancient old school spiritualities, these teachings of yoga and mysticism that say, no, you need to go through a really strict regimen of deconditioning over a period of years before you can even begin. I mean, manifesting isn't something new. They called it magic in the old days, You sit around and you verbalize a mantra, vibrating energy, and it's an affirmation essentially. It's a prayer. What's prayer? It's the same thing. You're verbalizing this thing, or you're toning it. You feel the energy and the emotion, and you bring up your desire, and you connect it to your divine state of awareness, and then something happens that seems miraculous to you because you have felt the process. I mean, it seems natural, but it seems very awesome. But other people will either see it as a bona fide miracle because they don't know what's happening, or they'll see it as a series of coincidences. Even if it's a bolt of blue striking your enemy, shall we say, from the sky, they'll still say it's a coincidence. It doesn't matter. What matters is the result, the fruits. So during an age transition, crises will come about because the foundations of whatever held the rigid patterns of human ideation and human emotion and human motivation and intention, basically, become liquid. They become more fluid. That is the mechanism. It's not an obscure mechanism. We're living in a crisis time in history that hasn't happened since the friggin' fall of the Roman Empire and the first emperor of China, because it's not just European. The first emperor of China was around either Alexander the Great in European or the Romans or somewhere there. And you had similar crises in Mesoamerica America at the time. The empires were starting to rise far more than they used to. However, these empires were based on collective conditioning and ideologies, religions, things like that, which had not happened. Now it's different, and we're still in the transition age. And it's going to last for quite a while, because if we're going to be free and creative, we need to be well situated in that freedom. And we're awakening well before the true age of Aquarius is established, in order to establish it based on correcting the mistakes of the past, correcting our vulnerability to existing ideology, conditioning, emotional manipulation, marketing. It's as old as the mud. It's not new. Madison Avenue didn't invent marketing, neither did priests. It was much, much older than that. It's a human situation. Psychopaths always perceived it because their motivations are far different. They extract themselves and view themselves as different. But not just psychopaths. Anybody who believes they have to sacrifice or deny their heart's desire for the sake of some system or some organization that they believe is even a part of their own being, where they don't find meaning in their own hearts. They find it in some established something. Anybody like that can easily fall prey to either being manipulative or using the same kinds of methods that psychopaths use, because you end up losing empathy, because you say the ends justify the means. So empathy is useless. It's actually a hindrance when you actually move in that direction. So essentially, there are many reasons why the mechanism, so-called, of the proverbial law of attraction has not worked. But the window, if you look at the astronomical, alignments, the window of transition is actually relatively small. And 2012 is the center. Notice all of the praise. The Mayans never said the world was going to end in 2012. Even Carl Callan was talking about time will stop. What the hell does that mean? No, time will stop means that the patterns of destiny are basically not going to be imposed anymore. You're entering, like you had said back in 2011 when it happened, we're entering in the unscripted zone. There's no script. We're challenged to put the script in. Because why? Because the cosmic eraser came in and jumbled all the patterns up. The ink is still there, but instead of putting new ink, actually it's a reorganization of the old into new patterns. So the whole idea here is to get back to the law of attraction, but in a mature manner. In the 90s, there was so much craziness, and now there was so much focus that 2012 is an end date, and after 2012 is gone, everybody just forgot. The law of attraction doesn't work, or some people are saying, well, it can take us to the fifth dimension, it can take us away, you know. And it's always, you know, it's moved across. Even Bill Brockbrader, he expressed this idea of timelines. And then he was, you know, all of a sudden, Hughes disappeared. And it was just a small idea, you know, in the sense of, look, timelines are nothing but convergences of events. You want certain events to converge. Now, these events will bring about paradise if people focus on their heart's desire. And I'm not talking about the forms that Madison Avenue tells you want, the cars, the houses, the whatevers. Even financial security is an emotional state coming to the heart's desire. And it's a foundation that you build on so you can have freedom. And people will say, well, I don't want that. I just want to lie down and play video games. Well, what if your brain was really working? And what if you had that intimate relationship? And why do you play video games with hot women in there? If you're a nerd, for example, you do it because you really want a relationship. You really want to have that kind of pleasure, even if it's physical. You want to get out there, but you don't feel it's possible. You've been rejected all your life. That's just an example. All of these things need to be confronted. We need to confront ourselves if we're going to confront the world. This is not just inner work in the sense of just sitting there meditating. Somebody said that, yeah, I thought meditation was escapism. I meditate freaking, 5 hours a day, so it's not escapism, It's very important. However, it is the resource of an application in the real world. And that application doesn't have to be grabbing something and going around and screaming. First, you can do that later, but first you need to establish what you want. What kind of life do you want? Because when you follow your heart's desire in the middle of this psychopathic insanity, your heart's desire is going to be a block against the psychopath's plans. If I want true love is going to resonate an energy that the psychopath cannot want because it hinders their sacrifices, their pedophilias, and all of that. It doesn't let things move. It inspires people to not put their kids in the wrong playground, to go the other way. It inspires all kinds of detailed events. And at the same time, it also inspires a different kind of thinking. Because for you to find true love, you have to be able to attract somebody across a distance, for example. And that attraction is going to send your energy through a medium of space filled with other people and filled with other events. So you're going to have to override all of these and resonate so strongly that these other events are either with you or against you. And if they're against you, they're in timeline 2. And you let them go to timeline 2. You say, in my life, I want this. This is the qualitative dynamic. I want love, I want creativity, I want freedom, and I want to experience the feeling of it. And yes, use affirmations. And you can even use a recorder and record your affirmations, and overlay them and whatever, and listen to them, but feel it. Feel it. Motive and intention with desire will create means and opportunity. This is the law of attraction, or the effect of manifestability. Thank you very much. That's what I have to say.
Thank you, Aristo. It's interesting because it looked like something was taking over the computer while you're recording. I was trying to close programs, and the cursor, something was moving the cursor without me moving it. So there was weird stuff going on there.
Yeah. There's the weird feedback, wacka noise again. That wasn't there when we started.
No, it wasn't. It's like, and everything was okay on the computer when we first started, but it's like there's an interference that somebody else is messing with the computer while we're recording. I don't know.
Of it, people in alternative spirituality know that the physical events are symbolic of what's going on inside. So there's a lot of interference to this kind of information and this kind of truth, which just points out how important it is.
Right. Well, thank you very much, and namaste.
Thank you, Ron.